It makes me sad that some people have either convinced themselves or have been convinced by others that they're bad writers, when I know that's just not the truth. Hang out with me for a few minutes, and I'll share about how no one is a bad writer when we understand writing in terms of genre. Overall, genre is not an unfamiliar concept for most of us. If I were to ask you what your favorite genre of music is, you might answer with something like hip-hop, rap, rock, metal, country. Maybe even a more specific subgenre like second wave emo or indie folk. Can you guess what genre my favorite might be? I can tell you're already formulating a conclusion based on how I look. And you're thinking about music genres that have similar patterns to what you're noticing about my appearance. I know it's not super unusual for men to have long hair. But if you think about music genres where it's actually common for men to have long hair, you can probably narrow it down. Now, I realize that in some contexts, this can amount to stereotyping, and that can lead to harmful prejudices. But that's not what I'm trying to reveal here. What I am trying to reveal is our human proclivity to notice patterns and group things that have and share similar patterns together into categories. Music genres are one way that we do this. When you hear a song, you can probably place it into one of a few broad categories based on certain characteristics. The emphasis of the rhythm and beat, the type of singing or lack thereof, the instruments that are present or absent, and so on. Film genres are another way that we do this. For example, think about the genre of the romantic comedy. What tends to happen early on in romantic comedies? Well, usually the groundwork is established for potential relationships to form. What about in the middle? Isn't there something that happens that gets in the way of those relationships forming? Some kind of outside malicious force or some kind of misunderstanding? What about how they tend to end? Well, in the dramatic sense, comedy means reconciling by coming together, as opposed to tragedy, which often amounts to reconciling by being forced apart, usually by one or more of the characters dying. These are two broad genres right there, comedy and tragedy. So, in order for a romantic comedy to be a romantic comedy, people have to come together at the end. If they don't, well, it's no longer a romantic comedy, it's something else. So we may not have covered any new ground with the genre yet. But did you know that there are writing genres beyond stuff like science fiction and fantasy? Although academic writing might be considered as one of those broad genres, there are many subgenres of academic writing. In a previous video, I talked about the idea of the unending conversation in scholarly writing. Well, there's a specific genre of academic writing called a literature review, where the scholar works to summarize the relevant parts of the conversation that have now become the springboard to their current writing. We'll often encounter literature reviews early on in the first chapter of a master's thesis or in a dissertation, or as the first section in an article in a scholarly journal. In the middle, we'd expect the scholar to reveal their position in relation to the conversation, sharing where they agree, disagree, where they have something new to offer, and so on. And in the end, we'd expect the scholar to mention some ways that the next scholar might build upon their research. See, genres are patterns that come to life and help us communicate more efficiently by helping us anticipate and set our expectations for what's to come. There are all kinds of communication genres in writing and speaking. Some other writing genres include reports, summaries, abstracts, analyses, proposals, reflections. And other communication genres include speeches, interviews, or even dinner conversations with family and friends. Think about this. Would you talk to somebody at a job interview the same way that you would talk to your best friend? Probably not. Those are different communication genres where you have a different relationship with the audience. So, going back to my original hook, how is this related to being a bad writer? Or at least having the perception of such? Well, look. When it comes to drumming, I am not good at reggae. The one-drop feel is awkward to me. My body and my ear want the kick drum on beat 1 and 3, damn it, not 2 and 4. But because I'm awkward with the reggae one-drop, that is, no solid beat on beat 1, does that make me a bad drummer? Well, of course not. I have a great deal of literacy in other styles, in other genres. So even if you're not yet proficient in writing genres that are favored in academic writing, that does not mean that you're a bad writer. It just means that you need more practice with reggae. You need more practice in academic writing genres. And that's part of the journey toward academic literacy, that with time, effort, and practice, anyone and everyone is capable of. Okay, I hope all of this is making some sense. Thanks for sticking with me this long, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. And please feel free to share it with anyone else who you think might find it interesting. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon.